Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Band of Gamers Newscast, episode 87.5 for Thursday, the 11th of May. We're recording at about 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and I am joined tonight by Osiris Prime.
Hello, everybody.
So, very quickly, if you're not familiar with kind of the new setup, we've kind of switched up the format a little bit to respond to viewer feedback and to kind of try and make content that we felt might be a little more appealing. So we have broken out the news segment of the original core show into its own kind of 30-minute session. So we will be going fast and furious tonight, and let's get started. So first up in the rundown is an article over at Game Informer titled "John Oliver Calls Gamers to Action Over Threat to Net Neutrality." So in this article, John Oliver on his show, I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's Last Week Tonight, informed viewers that he and his crew had put up a site called GoFCCYourself.com. And over there, and that was placed up because the FCC is headed by new Trump appointee Ajit Pai, has featured an agenda and a platform that was starkly different from that of the previous administration, which had been decidedly anti-industry, I would say, and more pro-consumer. But under the current FCC regime, Ajit Pai is trying to roll back a lot of government regulation based on the philosophy that he feels that the FCC should not be interfering with what telecoms are trying to do, and actually is trying to set things up to transfer a lot of that oversight back to the Federal Trade Commission. And one thing that he is prepping to rule on is whether or not a lot of the net neutrality regulations that had been stood up under the previous administration should be rolled back. So if you're not familiar with net neutrality, that's the basic premise that all internet traffic should be metered and provided at a bandwidth that is equivalent and agnostic to the provider. So Verizon should not give special preferential treatment to its own content, while only allowing certain bandwidths to be available to competitors such as Netflix in terms of content. So I don't know, Prime. What are your so just to wrap this article up? So the FCC, much like the last administration did, is taking feedback on this from the public. But apparently it's a rather kind of Byzantine maze to weave through to figure out exactly how to get to the comments page and post things. So John Oliver erected this page, GoFCCYourself.com, which is a redirect where if you hit that page, you will more easily be able to get to where you can post comments and feedback to the FCC. So, Osiris Prime, your thoughts and opinions, sir.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read the whole article right away or tonight. Did they want to do like a total reversal on what's already been done, or have they really said have they really like planned out what they wanted?
I don't think that they really have, and I haven't been to the actual site. I am not sure that they actually have specified what exactly they want to repeal. But if you've kept up with kind of some of the things that they've done, like I think knocking out preferential treatment or fees or something or other for ISPs that would say voluntarily provide bandwidth and connectivity to rural areas or impoverished areas. That was one of the things that they removed. So I would expect at this point that it would almost be a complete zeroing out of anything that was meant to keep the ISPs in check from a net neutrality standpoint. I don't know. From what I've seen, I don't know that there's a lot of in between with this administration.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other argument, I guess. But I guess that could be a potentially big impact on gamers, just on just how we stream and download our games, and obviously we have to get patches, we have to download those too. So I don't know if if we're going to get charged for every little thing that happens, or if, we're trying to download something and all of a sudden, oh, hey, this is not, you're not using, like say I'm on Comcast, you're not using Verizon, like you said, so we're going to, meter you down a little bit or something like that. So obviously that's going to be a huge impact on gamers, because we're obviously, a lot of people now are playing online. So I don't know, that's just I'll have to, jump into the site, dig in a little more, but that could be a huge impact on just, what we do, just, just on an average day, really.
Right, it could play out very interestingly, right? Because one of the corporations I think that stands to be really hurt by this, if it is rolled back, is Netflix, right? Because the carriers are very threatened by Netflix, because in a lot of cases the carriers also provide content. So particularly in your situation with the beast that is Comcast, NBC, Universal, and obviously Comcast would prefer to deliver NBC and Universal content at higher bandwidth and with clearer, pictures and at higher resolutions than Netflix, unless Netflix ponies up to pay an extra charge.
Right.
So, but the interesting thing is, in this new geek kind of renaissance, I know I struggle with it. I struggle with the geek's burden, right, which is kind of my thing that I apply to the fact that every night I sit down, I have to make choices between video games, comic books, movies, TV, streaming, and that's all because we have all of this stuff available in this time and day. Go back 10 years, I didn't have a warehouse, a literal digital warehouse of movies and television seasons on demand at my fingertips that I could call up every night and search and choose what to watch. So that's constantly a thing competing for my time. My point being is, if Netflix is impinged somehow in a loss of net neutrality, we might be incentivized to game more. So it could actually work out in an opposite way. So it'll be an interesting thing to see play out. But right now, I'd like to hear about Vanquish and its PC port.
Oh yes, I never did actually play this. The full game. I played a demo back on I think it was the 360, PS3 generation when it originally came out. But yeah, Vanquish by Platinum Games, one of their probably, I don't want to say better titles, but one of their more popular titles, maybe cult following title back on the 360 and the PS3. That's coming to PC May 25th. And there's pre-orders going on right now, which is you'll receive the digital deluxe edition, which includes a digital art book. Okay, I guess that's cool. 5-track soundtrack sampler, exclusive wallpaper, and a Vanquish avatar for your Steam profile, which I didn't even know there was Steam profiles. I guess that shows how long it's been since I've been on Steam. Actually, I got on not too long ago, but I didn't see that avatar thing, so I don't know if that's just like the little picture they're talking about. Maybe not like the Xbox where it's actually actual avatar guy. But yeah, you'll get all that on the 25th if you pre-order. And this is kind of on the heels of, excuse me, they have released Bayonetta recently on the PC also, not too long ago. I'm trying to see if they gave, I think it was about a month ago or so that they released Bayonetta. So I guess they're getting a lot of feedback from their fans, and they wanted Vanquish, and it was a pretty cool game. I really liked the demo when I was playing it. I just, once again, like all other games, I just had so much that I was playing at the time, but definitely different. You're kind of scooting around the play area. You got these jet boots, knee boot things, and you're just kind of scooting everywhere. So it was kind of cool. These huge bosses you're battling, huge enemies. So yeah, I don't know if you ever played the full game back in the day.
I didn't, and my understanding is kind of the same as yours, right? That this is a game that kind of reviewed pretty well, but that a lot of people ignored.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with Platinum Games, I just want to kind of run down the list of like some of their more popular titles that I'm familiar with or have played. Bayonetta in 2009, like we're talking about now, Vanquish in 2010, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance in 2013.
Yep.
Which I think has recently become available on mobile as well. So if you didn't play it on PC, it's actually available on mobile platforms, I think, now.
Oh wow.
Bayonetta 2 in 2014, Transformers Devastation in 2015, Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard. Did you play those on the Wii U?
No, I didn't. I didn't realize that was a Platinum game.
Yeah. And then most recently, this year, Nier Automata, which has gotten a lot of really positive reviews. So,
yeah.
and then unfortunately the canceled Scalebound, which would have brought a platinum game to the Xbox One. But yeah, I'm interested to see that game show up on Steam, so maybe we can give it a whirl. And of course, the nice thing is once it's on Steam, it's not like we have to think about, like, do I need to grab that right now, right? Because once it's on there for good, and we can just pick it up whenever we want on sale. So let's go back to consoles and talk a little bit about the PlayStation 1 and its legacy, because coming out this summer, actually the next month, you will be able to purchase Wipeout Collection for the PlayStation 4, which was a game that debuted in 1995 on the PlayStation 1. I think you're going to talk a little bit more about the game. I probably should have switched this order up. In fact, actually, I thought you had something about Wipeout.
I did, but I took it off because I saw that you had it. So,
okay.
Because I already had 3. That was like an extra one I had anyway, so you can go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So Wipeout Collection is going to become available next month. It is going to wrap up a lot of the newer versions of Wipeout that have come out since then. So you're going to get Wipeout HD, Wipeout Fury, and Wipeout 2048. You get all of the tracks and all of the ships, and they have improved upon the visuals as well. So now it will run at 1080p. It will run at 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It has HDR, and they are targeting 60 frames per second. So this is pretty exciting, and it's pretty interesting, too, because I'm not sure if everybody else has paid attention to the space, but I had noticed and have been kind of surprised that this is a very re-emerging and becoming popular kind of subgenre of racing. We have had Redout that came out on the PC last year, which was an incredibly fast and blurry game. Blurry in a good way. And so the notion of, I played that quite a ton. The videos that I've posted of that on my YouTube channel have been more popular than the average video on my channel. And it's been hugely interesting playing that subgenre on PCs with, these GeForce GTX 1000 series cards in SLI. It's a pretty amazing experience. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Prem?
I was going to say, is that one coming to Switch too, or is that another one I'm thinking of?
No, so that's what I was going to say. And then surprisingly, even more so, so you have this thing coming out on the PC, but on top of that, Fast RMX was a launch title for the Switch. And it was one of those launch titles that surged out of nowhere, right? First, it was announced after the Nintendo Direct in January, and I thought, based on its kind of material and the fact that it wasn't kind of a Nintendo mascot game, that clearly this was something that was going to be coming out later. But then in the couple of weeks before the launch, we got told that it was going to be available in the launch window. And I grabbed it, and I've played a ton of it. And again, and shot video and live streamed it. And again, those videos have been way more popular on my YouTube channel than the average view. So there's some level of interest out there apparently for these types of games, and so it would make perfect sense that Sony would pony up to bring Wipeout back. Now, of course, Sony would have made that decision before they'd probably seen the impact of a lot of these other games that have released on these other platforms. But on top of the game releasing, if you live in the UK, you will be able to get the game in the PlayStation 1 style box art over in the UK, specifically at Shop2, which is a UK retail chain, and maybe at some others, but it will definitely be select limited distribution. So the case kind of, like I said, just has art that resembles, that harkens back to the old PlayStation CD cases. So it has the old PlayStation logo with the red, blue, and yellow on it. It has the case. It has a CD-looking case or case cover that kind of goes over the Blu-ray case. So it, like, tucked inside it is a regular PlayStation 4 Blu-ray case, but it's kind of wrapped in this thing that looks like an original PlayStation case. And in fact, the logo and all the styling of it just says PlayStation. It doesn't say PS4. PS4 is kind of in a little white block beneath the main logo. So a little kickback to nostalgia for collectors and people who still buy their things in physical format.
Yeah, looks pretty cool.
So, Prime, are you planning on picking up Wipeout Collection?
I am not, only because I don't have a PS4.
Gotcha.
DB's got the PS4. So I know you guys are talking about that. I think last episode actually when we are kind of going over the different things. So I played it. I played. I think that was one on the PS2, I believe, maybe.
Probably
a while back. It was one of the original ones that I played. So it's been a while.
Yeah, the one that I think was really popular most recently was Wipeout HD. I think it was because when the great PlayStation Network hack of 2011 occurred, and Sony came back up, one of their retribution paybacks was, you got PS Plus free for, I want to say like 90 days, but you also got, I think, like 3 free games, and one of those games that you could have selected was Wipeout HD. So that's when I got onto PlayStation Plus and also got back into Wipeout, having only played it previous to that on the PlayStation Portable.
Nice.
But I played that Wipeout HD on the PlayStation 3, and I still play it periodically on my PlayStation 3, which is still hooked up.
Is this game coming out to the US, right? Obviously, you said because they haven't mentioned, though, if you get this cool box. The box is pretty cool. I like it.
I haven't seen anything about this box art being available at retail. It's only been announced in the UK, and I brought it up because, yes, maybe there's the hope that for collectors. So I plan on probably getting it at some point. I don't plan on buying the physical copy, but I did want to let people know to hope that does come out in that collector's edition box in the US, or post some things over on the PlayStation blog and comments to ask that they make that releasable in the US.
Cool.
So Prime, it sounds like some fans of a particular franchise got a bit of a punch to the gut this morning. So why don't you talk to us about that?
Yes, actually, 1-2 punch, because I got a couple stories here from EA. Another one actually we were just talking about on Monday's show with our E3 preview. So the first story here I got is about Mass Effect. So BioWare Montreal, who did Mass Effect Andromeda, the latest game in the series, which I guess whoever you talk to, could be good or bad, but they are saying that they're going to put the whole series on hold right now currently, and then BioWare Montreal is going to go into a support role. They're just going to be supporting other studios, like working on Battlefront 2 stuff, or one of the new IP, which I'll talk about here in a second, that BioWare has been kind of hitting at the last few months or so. But yeah, so they'll still put out patches and updates and stuff like that, but nothing major as far as the whole series. They haven't mentioned anything about the next installment. I guess before the release of Andromeda, they were hoping to kind of keep going with the series, but with this latest installment, with the problems that they had graphically and just I wouldn't say bad reviews, but they're just kind of okay reviews. They're just kind of putting everything on hold on the series and I guess kind of see what happens next. Maybe they'll just take a break for a little bit. Although I guess, well, between 3 and this one, it's been I don't know what, like 3 or 4 years maybe. I can't remember exactly when 3 came out, but it was kind of a while before this Andromeda came out. So I don't know if I can't remember if you're a big Mass Effect fan or not, but I don't know if this impacts you at all. If you really played Andromeda.
No, I definitely have not played Andromeda. So I think Mass Effect 3 came out spring of 2012, so it's been about 5 years. And that released, so that was actually on the last generation consoles too. So this has been the only title that has been released on Generation 8 hardware. So no, it doesn't really impact me directly. I have the original Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, and I think I have them on maybe a couple different platforms because they've become free on PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold or really cheap on Steam or something. So I have them kind of all over the place, and I've only started Mass Effect 1. And it's one of those games that's like firmly in my backlog that I know that I want to go back and play them, but I just haven't made time for them yet. What's weird to me and unfortunate with this, again, like you mentioned, going back to our discussion earlier this week, is when you strike something like this, like I don't know what's left in EA's lineup, right? So, and really for EA more than Activision, we talked a lot about like the kind of thin profile, our portfolio that Activision has. Of course, Activision has Blizzard, which just prints money, so maybe they don't need to worry about it. and that was kind of a long-standing theory when those two merged, right? Would we get to a point where what Activision itself did really didn't matter? They would just be an umbrella company for Blizzard, and that's what would really make all the money. But more interestingly, I guess now at this point is what and Activision, yes, they have a thin portfolio, but as we talked about on the show Monday, they are putting out two of the biggest titles coming this fall with Call of Duty World War II and Destiny 2, and I don't really know that they need a whole lot else. But with EA, fortunately, they and Ghost Games came out and announced that there would be a Need for Speed title this year. We're like, again, we talked on Monday and we're like, what is going on with the Bad Company franchise? Like, it would be really strange to me for them to just drop that after it did so well last console generation. There's just a lot of uncertainty for me around EA. They're probably not going to do another Sims game anytime soon, given the atrociousness of their last launch. And I don't really hear that game talked about today, even though it was kind of one of these things that we've been saying recently we want to have a conversation about, which is these notionally singular campaign-oriented games, but once they're launched, they're meant to endure for 2, 3, 4 years, right, with expansion content and DLC, and for people to keep playing them. I don't hear people talking about not The Sims. I'm sorry, I don't hear people talking about playing SimCity today.
Okay.
So I don't know if that game is still healthy in its life cycle. So with them putting Mass Effect on hold and talking about pushing back their IP, I'm not really clear what's left on EA's plate. So they have Need for Speed.
Got Battlefront.
Okay. Battlefront, Battlefield.
Yeah, right. So you got those two. I guess you can throw in Plants vs. Zombies. They got the regular game, and then plus they have the what's the Battlefield type one they have? I can't remember what it's called now. It's like the third-person shooter, Plants vs. Zombies. Can't remember.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so they got that one. Seems to come out pretty much almost every year, every 2 years. So I'm not sure if they had a release last year or not. So maybe they'll announce one this year at E3. Who knows?
And I guess they have Titanfall, but I don't really think of Titanfall as kind of one of their meat and potatoes kind of franchises.
No, not right now. I'm pretty sure it did pretty good numbers this past one, the Titanfall 2, but
right.
I didn't hear much about it, so I'm assuming it didn't do Battlefield numbers. So, that's pretty much it as far as BioWare. EA. BioWare has got their new IP coming, but they haven't really talked about it yet, so we don't know what it really is. A lot of talk says it might be Destiny-like because it's kind of online, kind of not, I guess. So we don't know anything about that. They have what's the other series they do? I was gonna say The Witcher, but not The Witcher, but a fantasy type series. I can't think of it right now. Got the game right here, maybe. Let me look. Let's talk. Dragon Age.
What's that?
Dragon Age was the other one.
Yeah. Because I was about to mention it seems like they've also let a lot of their Dungeons and Dragons properties go fallow, and I guess, yes, they're doing Dragon Age, but they haven't touched Neverwinter, in some of these other kind of, like I said, Dungeons and Dragons RPG kind of franchises. So
so a handful of games basically. And then obviously they have the sports stuff, but maybe that'll sustain them, I suppose.
Yeah, is this part of I guess I'm starting to get the sense that maybe this is part of like a big franchise downsizing and consolidation that is starting to occur that hasn't been really articulated in voice yet, but it seems like a lot of the big publishers are really winnowing down their tentpole franchises in their portfolio, and maybe they're trying to focus more or something, but I don't really. I'm not really sure exactly, what's going on.
Yeah, because you can see like Ubisoft, they took a year or two off for Assassin's Creed, so they kind of I want to say started it, but that was kind of the first push you kind of saw this kind of activity, and now obviously EA's putting the brakes on stuff because maybe obviously these big sellers are not big sellers anymore, so maybe there's sequel fatigue or something. I don't know. maybe BioWare's new IP will be, super, tremendous, but we don't know yet. So we'll have to see what happens.
I was going to say the same thing. Maybe it's just game. They finally caught on that gamers just aren't going to take getting shoveled the same franchise, every single year, and buy it. But they've definitely got strong studios, right? They've got BioWare, they've got Criterion, they've got DICE. DICE is almost its own kind of conglomerate, right, with multiple studios, kind of, in different parts of the world. Yep. I guess I'm surprised they still have Tiburon, which was originally on the West Coast, but it looks like it's in Florida now.
Okay. Visceral, I know they got that because they're working on Star Wars.
Right, and Ghost Games. So
Ghost Games.
So yeah, I guess we'll just have to kind of see where it goes. So the final story for tonight is over a posting over on GamesIndustry.biz, which talks about Microsoft introducing AR and VR motion controllers. So look, I'm not a huge VR guy. I'm definitely more of a proponent of AR. I see more practical and interesting applications from that perspective, and that's what I'm interested in. I know our original show founder and founder of Casual Adult Gamers, Greylock, is definitely into VR. I think he's got the Oculus Rift, right?
Yeah, he's got the Rift.
Right, and is putting that to very good use. I would say he's definitely gotten his return on investment utilizing that headset with Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
But I'm into AR, and like I said, Microsoft came out with these motion controllers today. And I guess what I was getting around to is I'm not a big I'm not a big VR guy, but I would definitely say watch this video. It is pretty awesome. It's a kind of rare. Microsoft doesn't always get video content advertising down very well, but I feel like they knocked this out of the park. If it is to be believed. Hopefully the next commercial will be a little more practical and show real world applications. It's a little fantastical here. But the controllers themselves look incredibly well designed. So when you talk about these days, like Microsoft hardware and what they have done with the Surface line, I love the design of these controllers. So, and maybe what's the more interesting tidbit of news coming out of this is that Microsoft has indicated that they should be available this holiday season, bundled in with an Acer, what they call a mixed reality headset. So now that's also piquing my curiosity because, so we've known that some of the big PC manufacturers were going to be coming out with VR headsets. That was one of the big capabilities that was supposed to come along with the Creators Edition update, which just came out this spring. And my hope was that those would be VR headsets that would come out at more reasonable prices, because I was pretty sure that, in the list of names of who was going to be rolling these things out, like Acer and Asus, who generally try and provide more affordable hardware, that these were not going to be $800 headsets. So it's great to hear that they are pushing forward with coming out. It's awesome to hear a price point. So this is a mixed reality headset bundled with the controllers for $399, which spanks the pants off of any of the pricing from HTC or Oculus. What's also I'm very curious about is this mention that it's mixed reality, which to me sounds like it will be. It may possibly be both an AR and a VR headset. And if these things are going to be a mixture of VR along with HoloLens, with the additional killer feature that I'm going to stand by a firm belief that these headsets are going to be usable on both PC and Xbox One, since it's all Windows 10 at the end of the day. That's kind of a grand slam home run, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see too. Like the Oculus Rift Touch controls, I think they were like 100 or 200 just by themselves, just the controllers by themselves.
Right.
And that's on top of what, like, I think it's down to like 600 now that I've seen recently.
Yep.
So I mean, looking at $800 just for all that, and this is going to be what, 400 with everything. I mean, that's pretty decent. I mean, you can't beat that. And then I was reading the article too that there's no external. It doesn't need any external sensors. Basically, it's all in the controllers, and between the controller and the headset, that's it. So there's no like, you don't need like a Kinect type device or some other little box sitting there. So
right, or anything like the Vive heads, with all the stuff like all over the room.
Yeah, sensors. Yeah.
I mean, in the commercial, it seemed to show everything as wireless except maybe the headset itself. So
yeah,
it looks like you may have a long connector from the headset back to whatever device is driving it, and that the controls will be completely wireless. But the controls are they kind of have these suction cup looking shaped kind of discs like in front of your hand, kind of like if you've ever fenced or used any type of sword, it almost looks kind of like a hilt guard that goes over your hands, except it's turned the opposite way and facing away from you. And behind that, there is a thumbstick and a very large circular touchpad. And in the demo, they showed, I think, the young lady navigating, with the touchpad. And then doing some other things with the joystick. So like I said, very impressive. Kind of really looking forward to seeing these hit the market and hearing more about them. The Build conference is going on right now in Microsoft and goes on all this week. So there may be some real world demos out there. We'll be able to hear more about these things.
Yeah, hopefully we get some like other videos that are actual apps or games or whatever. So that'd be pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean. And we talked about E3. We have yet to talk about the console manufacturers. We've been mostly talking about the publishers. But I'm going to do a leap ahead a little bit here and say, what if Microsoft also shows a virtual reality or augmented reality game at E3 running on Scorpio with a headset provided by a third-party manufacturer or even a first-party headset made by Microsoft with these controllers at the same price point, right, of $399 with both the headset and the controllers. And heck, I'll stretch it a little and say they should throw the game in too, right? But would you buy if Scorpio is $399, because we still don't know the price of Scorpio, right? If Scorpio is $400 and a complete VR kit with headset, controller, and a bundled in game were also $400. Would you find an $800 Xbox Scorpio completely kitted out for VR an appealing price point?
I actually would, because like I had mentioned recently, I've been doing VR with the Samsung Gear, and that's cool. What the little things that can do. I mean, that's pretty simple. But I mean, doing something like this, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit cheaper than the other stuff, but I mean, it's at the very least, I'd really want the Scorpio then, because for right now, there's no reason for me to get a Scorpio right now. I mean, graphics, okay, are going to be super big, exciting, but I don't have a 4K TV, and I'm probably not going to get one anytime soon. So, but with this, I can at least get the Scorpio initially, and then a little bit down the line, I can get the controller and the headset at the same time. So, yeah, I could definitely see them doing this, or if it's not this exact Acer headset, something else like that, maybe something of their own. I don't know if they do that, but they'd probably go third party. I think would be smarter.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm going to try and can you bring my portal up in the main screen? If it's not already auto switched to it.
It's good.
I'm going to try playing this back. I know the sound's not going to come across. I don't think I've figured out how to do that in Hangout, but I'm hoping. Yeah, it's a little slow. So, but I'm hoping this at least gives people a little bit of a feel. So there are the controllers. This video is only about 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I know it takes us a little over time, but like I said, it's fairly interesting. So here she just kind of navigates the world by, so there she is with the touchpad selecting the paintbrush.
Yeah, this part's pretty cool. That'd be cool. I mean, if you can like paint in the air and all around you and stuff like that, that'd be pretty cool.
And that's kind of like an experience, like if this were a game, it's kind of an experience game, right? But I mean, you can definitely see kind of the potential for So I like this, how, she's handling the, pulling it and stretching it using the controllers.
Yeah. Well,
and you could definitely see how like that could be like a pair of hands, in a video game.
Yeah.
So optical tracking, a trigger, grab, thumbstick. So I didn't even notice the grab control on the back side of the handles. One thing that I could definitely see potential from in that too is for a motorcycle racing game, right? Using the two controls as the left and right handlebars. So,
yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
All right, so we're probably a couple minutes over time. Prime, do you have any other input, feedback, touch points?
Just one more thing on the net neutrality one. How we're talking about if people are going to be going with this Verizon or Comcast or whatever. But if you think about going into the future of gaming, we have these services like Microsoft's Game Pass, and you got PlayStation View. I mean, that could potentially impact that. Hey, if you got Verizon, you can get Sony, who might be a little bit better than Microsoft. They might give you a little bit more power. So that's something to think about too.
Yeah, I'm a little out on this, right? Like so I'm in line with the concept of net neutrality in order to keep the ISPs from being abusive. I, in general, believe I'm not fully on board that there should be no regulation of any industry or of the tech industry or of the telecom industry. I believe that we should take the appropriate measures to regulate the telecom industry because they have shown a history of having a propensity to become bad actors and institute lots of anti-consumer policies, right? So I'm fine not policing them until they show the behaviors that indicate that they need to be policed. With net neutrality, I waffle, not waffle, but I'm kind of in this weird place where I think if the higher bandwidth is there, so if Verizon, if Comcast, so Comcast, let's say Comcast has a 100 megabit per second service, right, that they offer to consumers at a certain price. Mm-hmm. If Comcast had a 200 megabit per second tier, I don't necessarily see or have a problem if they offer that to Netflix, right, or Amazon, or anyone who wants to pay a set price to gain access to deliver their premium content faster. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. It has to be done in a way that where they don't charge Netflix one price for it and Amazon a different price for it. That's where I think it can be problematic. But I don't have a problem with the notion of a better service being made available that anybody can subscribe to. I just think that they need to have some type of regulatory body made up of themselves. Right? So kind of like the Motion Picture Association, right? Yeah. That sets a threshold every year and says, hey, this is going to be the baseline, bandwidth that ISPs are going to set, and you'd have to tier that, right? You might have to say if you're an ISP of a certain size, your baseline service has to be this, and police that themselves. But the thing I don't like about net neutrality, and where maybe I could see this perspective that it's stifling innovation, is I don't like the possibility that they could be creating better services and offering those at a premium price, and that maybe they're not because they can't under net neutrality. So, like I said, it'll be an interesting thing to watch. So
yeah.
Anything else?
No, I was gonna say we'll definitely have to talk about more about this in the future. So maybe on one of our
on the main show.
Yeah, on our weekly show.
Yes. Speaking of which, let's plug the weekly show. So this is the NewsCast, which we do generally Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. But if you want to watch our main show, which is a big kind of discussion podcast where we pick one or two main topics to really pull apart at a high level of detail and get into, and then wrap it up with our own personal playlists of what we are playing in the world of games. You can check that out Mondays if you want to catch the live show at 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central. And if you miss the live show, then you can always find the archive version on the YouTube channel. We also put an audio version up over on SoundCloud. under my personal account, which is Agasicles. Which I don't have anything that I can bring that up on the screen right now. So, but if you go to the YouTube channel, you should be able to track all that stuff down. So we'll get a little better about advertising on where you can pull those things down. So that is going to do it for us for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us for this newscast, episode 87.5 on Thursday evening, the 11th of May in 2017. Please join us for the main show on this coming Monday when we will be discussing a topic that we have not yet picked and selected. So, actually, we'll be continuing to talk about the publishers and our kind of our pre-show of what to expect and what we want to see from them at E3, although we have not picked the specific two publishers that we're going to cover this Monday. But you can look at this past week's episode and listen to or watch our discussion where we covered Activision and E3. So thanks so much for joining in on behalf of Osiris Prime. And myself, Zeux Thomas, we will sign off. Thanks again for joining the show, and we will see you on Monday. We are out.